Hey everybody, welcome back to the Brave Fence and Musashi commentary, and we're beginning our real adventure now with Chapter 2, A New Journey, now that we got the prologue pretty much done and over with.
Yay.
So, let's go back into the story here for a second. So, Thirstquencher Empire raided the All-You-Can-Eat Palace while the king and queen were away. They kidnapped a good majority of the All-You-Can-Eat Kingdom residents, and they took Princess Filet. So it's up to, and the reason why Musashi was even summoned in the first place because there is a legend of brave fencer Musashi that goes around the All-You-Can-Eat Kingdom, and they figured, okay, well, what if we summoned him and tell him to deal with the problems for us? Unfortunately, they don't really know anything about brave fencer Musashi besides the text given to them in the library, so they don't really know what he looks like or how he handles things. So to do the hero summon and then see this pipsqueak come out leaves them more concerned than anything else, but he's all they have. So it's up to us to just pretty much do whatever the hell we can to rescue the kingdom and save the day.
So is the PS2 game a prequel then?
The PS2 game is an entirely different continuity.
I feel like I feel like the Save the Princess line should be answered with the same "of course" clip of M. Bison that Take Over the World is.
I'm looking at the IMDb for this page. There's actually a surprisingly number of, well, I wouldn't say like famous, but well-known actors.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like keep an ear out, and you might recognize
yeah.
some of them.
Yeah, Kirk Thornton's in this, who's the current voice of Shadow the Hedgehog.
Right. I know Wendy Lee's in this game.
Of
Yeah,
course.
Of course.
Wendy
If Wendy Lee isn't invited to a
90s.
voice acting session, she like breaks in through the window.
Barbara Goodson's in this, who was Rita Repulsa.
That's right.
Sandy Fox is in this, who's in a number of anime as well.
I know we mentioned Stephen Bloom earlier, but he goes under David Lucas for this game. I'm guessing for union reasons.
Probably.
Likely.
Like in Rurouni Kenshin, he's under a different name as well.
Right.
I don't know why Steve Bloom would bother crediting under a different name though. He's got one of those voices that's like you hear it, it's like
Yeah,
definitely
it's
Steve
like,
Bloom.
dude, we know it's you.
There's no imitating that. You might as well
And
try
that
to
kinda
imitate.
worked.
You see him in the booth and he's wearing like a goatee on his
like-
face.
Yeah.
It's just like no,
Yeah,
it is not I.
we
Steve
poke fun
Bloom.
at that, but it does kind of ruin a certain plot element of this game
Yeah.
very early on, and we'll get to that later.
Oh, dude, Zemnis is in this game.
Oh wait. So is it a thing where you're not supposed to think it's Steve Bloom's character? But
Yeah,
it is?
but it is.
Okay.
Because,
Oh, so it's Fire Emblem Awakening, where you can totally tell that Lucina's a girl like immediately as soon as you hear her first.
That's
voice.
not necessarily true because like
No,
young men
I called her being
young men in anime are often voiced by women.
No,
It's a thing that happens.
I called Marth quotation marks being a girl immediately as soon as I heard that voice because she wasn't even trying to sound like a man. She was sounding like she was like, you can call me Marth, not like that.
No,
Obviously.
not like that.
But
No, I just
but it
played
was-
that the other day. It wasn't that obvious.
No, it was. I called it literally the very first time I
Oh.
heard that voice clip. It's like, that's a girl.
Well, it's like it was on the level of Naoto Shirogane from Persona 4, which is like that vocal androgyny that I kind of expect of anime young boys, where I'm sort of squinting my eyes at the character and asking
Studying.
myself, is this being voiced by a woman or is it not? I can't tell. I mean, it makes me ask the question. So it's still a little too obvious, but
Yeah, but thou must in full effect here.
That
No matter how much you say so, otherwise he will not let you leave.
Like, I mean, I think one thing that people tend to forget is that's supposed to be the joke
Right.
when they do that, is that you're not supposed to be able, it's supposed to be funny.
Ripson's
Which, I
been
mean,
through a lot of this likely, and it's like, just keep saying the same shit. He'll get it eventually.
there are several games that will just end right there if you refuse, though.
Super Paper Mario.
Not just Super Paper
Mario,
Mario,
I
though.
think, has the funniest one, though, because you have to watch that 20-minute cutscene again.
Super Paper Mario did it, but like there are also a few serious RPGs that do it. I'm trying to think of which one. I just watched a video about one that does this same thing, like just the other day, and I don't remember what game it was.
All right, so you got to hit the books to at least get a little more context of what the scenario calls for. Unfortunately, Scribe Shanky doesn't have all the books available because he can't even read some of them. You need a translator.
Let's play
to get them out.
shogi.
Yeah. Well,
Did you bring your library card?
no.
What I would have liked is, since this game is mostly comedic, is if he says, "Okay, fine, I'll go hit the books," he walks into the library, punches them, and then walks out.
Just like he literally hit the book.
Books are sturdy things. You don't want to punch them.
No. Well, he punched the.
Yeah,
the-
it's like punching a tree.
Yeah.
It is like punching
And
a
I
tree.
punched plenty of trees.
I'm not kidding when I say books are like, especially hardcover books, are they're like not something
There's a-
to be sneezed at in terms of toughness.
There's a reason why you take them all off before you move the shelf.
Yes.
One of the things, like when I was researching the topic a long time ago, like last year, that like home defense sites might recommend you do is like, if there's a wall between one room and the children's room, line up a bunch of books there. So that, like, if you have to shoot your gun in that general direction, the books will block the bullets.
Oh, that's a urban legend.
It's
Mythbusters
not.
did it. I
It's not a
forget what
complete
the-
urban legend.
Oh well, no. The
Um,
urban legend is it was somebody like Wild West Cowboy times had a pocket Bible over their
Yeah,
heart,
that's
and it
that's
saved them in a shoot off.
that's an urban legend. That's not gonna work. But like when you've got a
Mythbusters
shelf
did an
full of books.
Mythbusters did an episode on it. I don't know what because it was like it's also like a deck of cards was also said to be able to do it. I doubt that would stop a bullet.
The video actually demonstrated what it meant and showed like exactly how effectively and ineffectively it would be. So it was interesting. But bottom line, books are badass, man. They're tougher than you.
They're also great for balancing your camcorder for 2006 Let's Plays.
Yeah.
Damn right. Although for
Oh,
me it
so-
was books and Xbox 360 bucks.
So John,
camcorder.
John,
Webcam.
when we were doing the Pokemon cameo thing,
Right.
I actually still had my camcorder that I used, and I was like, great, I can use this. The video quality is still decent. It turns out that it wouldn't work because it's old as fuck and doesn't work with Windows 10 anymore. But I did get the stack of books and put the camcorder on top of it, and I was like, I feel like I'm 17 years old. This is really weird.
I like how this NPC is actually reacting to the fact that your normal animation has your sword out all the time.
Yeah. So we're now in Grillin Village, and
Grillin?
the usual Grillin actually, as in grilling a steak. The usual way of getting from the castle to the village is the gondola, but the gondola is broken. So Musashi, thanks to Scribe Shanky's quick thinking, had him use both of his swords to glide down the ropeway to get to the village. I think that's how physics work, anyway.
I mean, it would.
I mean,
yeah.
maybe, but we also here's the confusing thing about Musashi. There's a couple of things that actually bother me that I'll mention as we go along. We get down to the village via that method, but there is an opening on the side of this village that allows us to get to the castle all willy-nilly.
So I didn't need to.
So why don't we just do that? They go and mention that the gondola is used to transfer goods over, like food supplies and medicine. But for like actual human transportation, why don't we just go down the pathway?
Because it's way cooler to glide down using two swords on a.
I think Scribe
on a
Shanky's
gondola
an
line.
asshole.
I mean, that's also a possibility. Yeah.
I like video games that have food items in them.
Yes.
It's just, you know.
I like the idea that you just shove a steak down your throat and then you instantly get healthier. You know how it works in real life.
I mean, I always feel better after eating a good steak.
It is it's part of the tutorial segment because as you noticed in the beginning of the game, as I'm getting ready to leave for the village, I try and head back to my room to fall asleep because my BP was at 100 out of 150. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll just fully refresh myself. Musashi won't let you sleep. They want you to go to the village immediately. This is all because they want to teach you that food items restore your BP and medicine and such restore your HP. BP is pretty much your magic bar. It's what you spend to use special abilities with your fusion blade. It's also tied to just how good your well-being is. You might notice that little portrait of Musashi in the bottom right there, and how when he's at max BP, he's winking at you, showing his pearly whites. It's a good time. But the lower your BP, the worse Musashi gets. And if your BP is at a flat 0, Musashi's movement speed is pretty much cut in half. You can barely do anything because you're wiped out. You're out of energy. So you need to eat food to restore BP. The problem is, the game also runs on an in-game clock system. You can tell right now, it's day 1, it's Monday, 10:30 in the morning. Food spoils after 2 days. And the clock moves pretty fast. So it's if you're going to invest in food, make sure you do use it so you don't waste your money. Now, there are some items that you can buy that take advantage of the clock system. Later down the road, we can buy cheese from the grocery. And that actually gets better with age. So it's good to just keep that in your inventory.
It's not hard.
That's some Gouda cheese.
Yes.
It's not. It's not hard to have it's not hard to find games that have food items in them, but you don't really see that many that incorporate a spoiling element, do you?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. No, I think Musashi was the first and probably one of the other times.
God, I'm sure that there's some sort of Western RPG that has. Oh wait! Oh God! There is one. Oh, God.
What?
Oh, I played one not that long ago that had it, and I can't remember what it is. Oh, my God. Oh, no. My brain, why? Oh, God.
There's a lot of that going around today, isn't there?
Oh, God. Hold on. I need to look it up, because I swear I remember it. Oh.
It's like, when I think of Western RPGs with food items in them, I think Elder Scrolls, which doesn't have a spoiling mechanic. I think Ultima, which usually just has a ration number.
Dead Rising! Dead Rising, that's it. If you keep the meat in your inventory for too long uncooked, it will become rotten meat. And if you keep the frozen veggies in your inventory for too long, they just become normal veggies.
Thawed veggies. Yeah, but the food items do get different names if they spoil. It's a good indicator of letting you know that food's no longer good. Like
what the? Oh, guys in stocks. Great.
I'm trying to think. It's like bread becomes like moldy bread or some other thing like that. Rotten bagel. Basically, it's
what kind of bread are you getting that goes bad after 2 days?
Freshly baked bread.
You don't have a bag to put it in?
Not really.
A box?
No. We wander all over this kingdom. We go through many different altitudes. I'm pretty sure it's a fact in the age.
I think part of it is that, like, in medieval times, they didn't have, like, airtight plastic containers or whatever.
Yeah, no Tupperware.
Well, that's why they had bread boxes instead of bread other things.
Yeah, so on top of rescuing Princess Filet from the evil clutches of Thirst Quencher Empire, we also have to rescue the All-You-Can-Eat Kingdom residents. And this is optional. You don't have to rescue all of them, but there is incentive for rescuing them. Every time you find a resident inside a Bincho field, those little diamonds, you get to it, you hit triangle, you got to bust them out with Lumina, basically, your second big sword. Every time you rescue an inhabitant, your Bincho points go up by 5, and you get a full BP restore as well. So it's like, shoving bread in your mouth.
Into the drink you go.
Yeah. But here's another thing about Brave Fence and Musashi. There's actually a lot of things you have to manage with Musashi himself because his movement and all that is tied to his BP, but Musashi also can get tired, and you can't tell that right now because we just woke up and we're only a few hours into the day. But if you pay attention to Musashi's portrait every once in a while, you might notice the window around his face will start closing in. And that lets you know that he is getting tired. And once he goes over, I want to say 60% tired, his movement speed gets cut in half. And you will need to either go back to the kingdom to rest up for 8 hours, or you can go to the inn that's closer, so it's more convenient, but they charge you a convenience fee. Or you can sleep yourself and have Musashi get some rest that way. Unfortunately, if you rest with Musashi, your tiredness percentage can only go to 20%. You can't get a full night's rest without sleeping on a bed. Because the floor it's uncomfortable. I'm guessing.
It's interesting. These are mechanics that you don't often see with more child-friendly looking games. It's like when I think of games that have food mechanics and sleeping mechanics, I think of like hardcore Western RPGs like Fallout New Vegas or something.
Basically, yeah, the same.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to have these. Now, my question to you is, do you think these things get in the way of the game, or do you think they add something to it?
I think it can potentially add something. I think it's something to think about at the very least. Do I think they are ultimately needed? No. because they're really easy to mitigate if you know what to do. Because if you're playing the game smart, then you should always go to the shop and invest in mints, because mints restore your tiredness by like 50%. I guess.
Wow.
Well, I guess mints wake you up. Let's put it that way.
I wish it were that easy in real life.
Like if you chew minty gum, you wake yourself up. Like that's a science.
That's a sign.
I wish it were that effective, because if it was...
No, I've been drinking coffee all my life when I should be just chewing gum.
Chewing ice also helps. Chewing in general is something that your brain thinks you need to be awake for, so it helps. Mint helps keep you awake, and ice, like, because your brain, if you're cold, your brain's like, what the fuck, and doesn't want to go to bed.
Yeah.
Much. I mean, granted, you should be trying to get a normal sleep schedule, so if you're watching this at 2 in the morning, instead of doing your paper, do that. Or go to bed. You won't get a good grade
agree.
anyway. I don't know.
I guess the reason these elements are here is probably mostly because, like, this was a really experimental time for video gaming. I mean, 3D graphics brought with it possibilities for immersion that 2D graphics didn't have, just in the eyes of game developers. I mean, I know that, like, from a practical games design standpoint, it's not as big a deal as they thought it was at the time. But it inspired a lot of game developers to do inconvenient things with game design in the spirit of making a more immersive experience, and that resulted in some weird experimentation, like doing this really cartoony game with survival mechanics of all things.
Oh, on the transition, he decides to speed up.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, you can't go any faster when you're carrying objects as small as a dog or as big as a church bell.
Now that the mud is back, I can ask the mayor
But,
about the roll.
yeah, so... yeah, ultimately, I don't find all these mechanics too cumbersome to juggle around, because they're relatively easy to deal with. One, because it's really easy to rejuvenate BP, even if you don't eat food, because I rarely buy food in Musashi. I'm usually just investing in healing items to restore HP, because enemies can drop health. Enemies can also drop BP orbs, which refill a hefty amount. And then later down the road, you get abilities and such that makes it really easy to conserve BP. So it's not too much to handle, and dealing with fatigue is not too bad either once you know how to handle it. And admittedly, on my first playthrough, or first couple of playthroughs actually, getting tired was a sticking point for me, because I'm in the middle of a big platforming challenge, but I'm over 50% tired and my movement speed's cut in half.
Hi, Steve Bloom.
Yeah. No, it's David Lucas.
Sure thing, Steve. Wink.
You just see him in the booth twiddling his not fake mustache.
Don't just show me the food, man.
Yeah, so this is the man in the stock. So
Sorry, don't worry, pal.
to get the mayor of Grillin Village says that he'll help us out with this little predicament with Musashi and learn more about the legendary brave fence of Musashi if we help rescue the town dog Leno. Leno actually belongs to this dude here. This is John the treasure hunter, and Steve Bloom basically. And before he says anything, we do need to get him some bread and water. But if you know that beforehand, you can go get water at the well and buy some bread at the store beforehand. You can just show him the food here.
Oh, that's usually what I like to do and stuff like this. Is
Although
backtrack.
there is actually dialogue if you bring him bread with no water. He says Musashi will comment that, okay, I have bread, but I don't have any water, so give me a second. And then John will say, okay, thank God, because I couldn't imagine eating bread without water.
I want to show you my gratitude. I'll tell you a secret.
There's a couple of instances where certain dialogue can change depending on what you do beforehand. Another thing that you can change is if you actually read any of the books at the library before heading to Grillin Village in the first place. Because John will ask you if you've heard about the legendary brave fence of Musashi, and if you read the books, then Musashi will comment that, yeah, I know a little bit, based on the books you read, or you don't read the books at all, and he says, I have no idea what you're talking about.
You see, this game really does feel like it was a passion project. Like, the people who made it because they really wanted to.
Yes.
Yeah, Square had quite a few of those in the PS1 era. You probably heard of most of them. There's Parasite Eve and, this one, Xenogears. Oh god, Xenogears. That game was a passion project of the mismanaged variety, where they did a lot and wanted to do a lot, but it but the amount of time they spent on it was so unbalanced that the second half of the game really suffered.
Yeah, and it's
Xenogears is a mess.
it's cases like that though that I feel that kind of fuels the animosity towards the Final Fantasy franchise. You know, because Final Fantasy 7 and 8 were so like hyped up on release, and because they did so well that it's like, if it's Square, it has to be Final Fantasy, otherwise I'm not interested in it, and to the detriment of the other projects they were working on
Yeah,
at the time.
although that wasn't always the core problem. Xenogears in particular there's a lot of, when you research the development, it becomes pretty clear that there was a lot of mismanagement on the part of the producer, in in terms of like not wanting to compromise on his vision, and to the point where he spent too much time and resources on stuff and then didn't have enough time to finish the rest of it, that kind of thing.